Any theories of cool stuff we might see with Azul Nirub? Well, I think that we'll get to see what I'm, I guess, excited for. One of the things that I always found really interesting about the Nerubians was their architecture, their cities, their technology that they have. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most interested in looking at going forward is like, we have very seldom looked at in detail the actual like technological advancements or philosophical views of these older civilizations. And I think that it's fascinating. I think it's something that there's a lot to be learned from. There's a lot of history that exists there. I think there's, there would be a lot of evidence showing, potentially, how did they evolve to this point? What did these civilizations, what did these communities like really stand for? Like, what were their ideals? Like, I'm of the opinion that the empires that existed during the days of the old gods, like I'm starting to think the more that they keep talking about, oh, paint the Black Empire as an age of suffering and despair, it's making me think more and more that like maybe it wasn't like that at all. Maybe it wasn't like that at all.
Strange theory, but do you think there's a chance that void doesn't actually exist?
That void doesn't exist?
Projection created by the Titans to stray us away from what we should actually be focused on. I think the void exists, but the void lords don't.
Yeah, I think that the void is ultimately the fault of the Titans anyway, and I do think that both the light and void are essentially used as manipulation tactics, and I think that they're both extremely dangerous. They're essentially like one and the same force when you look at it from a certain way. But anyway, I think that, I mean, do I think the void is real? Yes, but do I think that there are entities behind it, these incomprehensible shadow entities known as void lords that we've, been told about in the past? No, I don't really think that. It just seems very abstract and hard to pin down, and they just never get mentioned, for the fact that the old gods apparently were created by them. Like, the old gods never mention them, and they never really talk about them, which is kind of strange, I think. So, I don't know. Something to think about. But yeah, I think, back to the other question, the Nerubians, I think that these older empires, the Klaxi, I think that they were, to a degree, like, highly sophisticated. They had empresses, they had, like, social structures, they had fucking cities. Like, that's pretty intense when you think about it, and it makes me wonder, like, what were they like? Were they these savage beings that were incomprehensibly evil and suffering under the shadows of the old gods, or were they thriving because they were one of the original, like, the big original, like, sects of, like, living beings on the planet? Hold on, my fucking Roomba is like somebody against the door. She was stuck on the rug in the bathroom. Dumbass. Pyro's house is just Wally bots, bro. Yeah, that get fucking stuck on everything. The Nerubians and Klaxi probably a threat since they're subterranean and can access closer to the world soul. I mean, maybe. It depends on what, like, the true focus of them is. I don't think that the Nerubians are focused on, like, corrupting the world soul. So I don't really think that they're a threat in that regard. I think that that would be probably antithetical to their own existence. They don't seem like, I understand that the Klaxi, for instance, worship their old one or whatever. But that was also a long time ago. And what they worshipped may have been a little different than what we are presented with now. Today is the Emerald Dream patch, which I'm very excited for. The Emerald Dream has been kind of one of the biggest enigmas in the World of Warcraft universe for a long time. I think it is a big a big key to the story going on. I think the Emerald Dream may very well be where the world soul of Azeroth is actually being housed. I do believe, regardless of that, I do believe that the Emerald Dream is a pacification mechanism that is used to help keep Azeroth asleep. I think it is a mechanism by which spirit energy is intentionally siphoned to Azeroth to keep her asleep. So I do think that it is something that needs to be undone. The Legion wanted it to be undone. The Nightmare sought to undo the Dream. I think for different reasons, perhaps, but yeah, I absolutely think that the Emerald Dream is part of why she hasn't woken up yet, and so I'm hoping that we will see what I'm kind of look. I think that there is always a possibility that if something happens to the dream, that we might be able to then lay our eyes upon something that we've not been able to see before. Does that make sense? Essentially, I'm alluding to something disappearing, and what I'm alluding to disappearing is what I believe to be essentially a false sky on Azeroth. And I think that there's a possibility that if you disconnect the dream from reality, that the illusion above us will be dispelled, and that you will be able to see into the space around Azeroth, and you will then be able to see that there are worlds very close to Azeroth that are corrupted and destroyed and stuff like that. The planets that we would see from the seat of the Pantheon, for instance. There is always, look, when we're talking about the Titans, we're talking about, world-shaping gods that have mastery over illusions, that have mastery over time and space, and, there is always a possibility that when their mechanisms are disabled or destroyed, that reality as you perceive it may very well change. So, without elaborating further on that, yeah, I hope you understand what I mean by that. So, the world could itself look different if we were to have a mass illusion mechanism on our world like disabled. So, question for Chat and Pyro: do you think any of you think there's something in the transition animation of the war within logo cracks forming in the world? Well, I think definitely it alludes to the possibility of the world, or the crust of the planet, at least in some places, cracking, and maybe opening up fissures. Maybe that is kind of suggesting the breaking of kind of the mantle, so to speak. If you guys have been checking out my YouTube channel, or if you've been present on the stream lately, I've been talking a lot about the logo for the last Titan, because I think it is actually giving a hint, a really big hint, about essentially prison mechanisms. So,
less than 3.
Let's just say you should watch the YouTube videos if you haven't seen them. There's lots of good stuff there that explains it very well. I think better than I can off the top of my head right now. 3 rings, 3 X packs. Yeah. Well, the thing, and the thing is, there's essentially there was some evidence from the PTR back when Battle for Azeroth was going to be coming out, and when the sword impacted Silithus, when you could go down into the heart chamber, there was actually this little globe of Azeroth, and it was like a custom model, and it's custom because there's actually a big sword like stuck into this globe, and then in this globe, there's actually 3 rings on the globe, like circling it. It's the same globe with the rings that is inside of Karazhan, actually. Which presumably was built either by Medivh or by Aegwynn, I don't know. But these rings essentially all have different like runes, or one of which has like a blank design on it. And essentially, what's happening is that this custom model had the sword sticking into it, and one of the rings is like running into it, almost to suggest that Sargeras' sword is like interrupting one of these rings that is like potentially part of the kind of imprisoning mechanism. And there are 2 more rings, one of which appears to have, maybe shadow runes or death runes of some kind on it, or maybe they're even arcane runes. And then there's another one that looks like it has like the vines of like a tree, or something, or a plant kind of like strung along it, which almost, I think, suggests the Emerald Dream. So, and then we're seeing, Sylvanas takes the helmet of the Lich King and literally shatters a hole in the fucking sky above us. So, like, there's a lot of evidence to support, like, the false sky narrative. There's a shitload of stuff, so. The last Titan logo looks like the same prison Iridikron is in. Yeah, it's got, like, the rings around it that puts it in, like, a stasis prison. And I think that's what Azeroth is in, is essentially, like, a stasis prison. I don't believe Last Titan's referring to Azeroth. Yeah, I definitely think it is, considering that they've referred to Azeroth as the Last Titan multiple times throughout the history of this game. Here, let me tell you this, man. And this is what I said in my Discord earlier as well. how many different theories and ideas did you hear about for why Teldrassil got burned down? Just think about that for a second. How many different ideas were there? There was myriad number of ideas. Me and my community we fucking sat around and came up with ideas till the fucking cows came home. And it was the most simple and obvious answer the whole time, that it was Sylvanas Windrunner. She burned the fucking tree down. Whoa. That's exactly what happened, right? So I implore you to not... I implore you to think about considering the most obvious answer, and when they say the last Titan, I mean... Azeroth has been called that before. Like, we should probably assume that it's talking about Azeroth in this case. I mean, Metzen came on stage and talked about a Titan conspiracy and the true intentions of the Titans for the world and the nature of our world itself. And like, it's like, you don't... I feel like you don't come out and say shit like that on stage and then be like, oh, it's not Azeroth. Like, I don't know. That seemed like a big weird decision to me. I wonder if she's the last Titan now. Are the Titans we know even real Titans? That's a great question. That's a great question. I wonder if Sargeras is a Titan. I mean, there is a possibility that the Titans are like Constellar type beings. I mean, they do appear as such at the seat of the Pantheon before they take their like form, essentially, which seems to be just like of their own accord. Like they just fucking choose to do that or something. So there's always a possibility that like Sargeras and Azeroth are different than the others, and that them trying to say that like Sargeras, who clearly looks very fleshy and demonic and fiery, is obviously a lot different than the other Titans. So maybe there is something different. I don't know. What if Azeroth and Sargeras are like two of like the chaos gods in like the universe, and the Titans are the order gods, and they like tried to imprison Azeroth or steal her from Sargeras or something? Who fucking knows? Maybe that's why he's so pissed off. I don't know. But it's just a thought. At this point though, the Titans are our biggest threat. I would also say, for those who haven't heard me say this as well, like I think the expansion Midnight is going to be, I think that's a curveball. I think that's a big debate. I think that Midnight's not actually going to be primarily about the Void. I think it's actually going to be about the Light. I think they might finally pull the Light invasion, Urel shit. They might finally do that with WoD, but we'll see. When Illyria went near the Sunwell before, it made Void entities come out of it, and then we fought him and cleansed it out. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be an issue or not. But yeah, there is also the possibility that the wells themselves have something to do with the state of the world, but that's a different discussion. I'm looking forward to Midnight the most. Honestly, it's about elves, so it's a win in my book. Yeah, being able to unite the elf tribes is pretty fucking sick. And going to Quel'Thalar is pretty fucking awesome as well. Quel'Thalar, what the fuck did he... I don't remember. I can't remember. There's too many Quells. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff coming up. I think that narratively it's World of Warcraft is swinging in a direction that is hitting on the narrative beats that I think, that I care most about, that I think are the most interesting. So, when they come out and they start talking about the Emerald Dream and Titans and, conspiracies about Titans, it's really hard for me to not want to be interested in that. So ultimately, I think the combination of like the passion of Chris Metzen, I think I trust him a lot more than other people. And I just think like stage presence wise, like even Ian Hazakostas was just like, he seems like in a much like better mood. Like he seems happier about what he's able to present. He seems like I don't know, like I think Ian of the past seemed like dead inside. Does that make sense? I think he seems so drained and like just kind of like checked out for a while. And I felt like this BlizzCon was very different. Like he seemed a lot more energetic and like excited, and like it seemed like maybe he was finally getting to like make some of the changes that he wants, because I don't know, man. Like the way that the executives in these companies are able to like restrict what people can do is really fucked, man. So there is always the possibility that like that's been, you know, loosened and they're being given more creative freedom for the thing that they probably love, you know. I mean, it is their fucking job. It is what they do, you know. Then, you know, every day they wake up and do this shit. So they've, you know, you've got to love it. If you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it, I think, after enough time. So yeah, I mean, it definitely, you know, there's definitely still been some times in the past where like, holy shit, there were some bad systems. And I think like I think the page started to turn a little bit when they came out and they admitted that they were designing systems to be like destroyed after the end of an expansion, like to be irrelevant. Like when they admitted that that was their design, like their actual design philosophy was that they didn't care and that it was just going to be an expansion cycle system. That was like, wow, dude, like I can't, like I was kind of shocked that they admitted that. And that kind of, you know, that was, I think, the interview with John Haidt and Holly and I think Ian, that I think that was the one that Preach did. And that was a fantastic set of interviews. If you guys haven't seen that, I'd highly recommend that. But yeah, I think that was kind of where it started. And then to be able, I mean, the fact that they put BlizzCon on, you know, as like a free thing to watch online as well, I think really shows like they're definitely trying to like gain some faith back. And I think that that's a good way to do it, you know? Fuck it, like here, the online presentation is free and like they're here to go. So I think that was pretty cool. So those things combined are what brought me back. And I will still be playing Final Fantasy 14. Like, obviously people are gonna come in and be like, oh, are you quitting 14? No, it's still a great game, okay? I love it for different reasons. And as I've told my mods and I've said on streams before, I play old school RuneScape way more than either World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. So, like, and I don't stream that game at all. So, you know, what do you think about full reset to WoW after the last Titan? I think that there are mechanisms within the game. Listen, let me put it this way. I think that if you can re-originate a world, if Azeroth is like a god of creation and destruction, like God, then I think that Azeroth can re-originate the universe. Ultimately, like, that's kind of what it comes down to, is that like if other beings can do re-origination, like Sargeras and the Titans and Argus and, you know, then Azeroth can too. Probably on a galactic scale, like on a universal scale. So, I think that if there is, you know, the opportunity, I mean, they're talking about, you know, finishing up this story arc and leading into the next 30 years of WoW. So, like, I think that given the fact that there is an in-universe reset button, like, you're probably gonna use it. You know, I feel like it's Chekhov's gun kind of sitting there. Like, we've talked about that several times today on stream, but I feel like it's just kind of, actually, maybe we haven't. Maybe that was in Discord. It's just kind of sitting there. It's like the gun waiting to be used, you know? So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Do you fit Zareth Mortis into any of your theories nowadays? The whole everything is a robot thing kind of fucks up most of my own thought process for future story. Yeah, dude. That's the hard, like, that's one of those things, like, I will accept it if I have to, but I kind of wish that the Zareth Mortis lore was just not real. Like, I just kind of wish that was just all just not canon and like not relevant and like they're like, nah, that didn't happen. Like, it's oh man, they managed to do Sylvanas dirty, the jailer dirty. How do you fuck up the Realm of Death? Like, come on, man. How do you fuck that up? Yeah, it's a tough one. Shadowlands is probably the worst expansion ever, in my opinion. I think it's worse than BFA. There, I said it. I think Shadowlands is worse than BFA. And Arthas, dude. They did Arthas dirty, too. You know who didn't get done dirty, though? Garrosh. We'll take that, right? We'll take that small W. We'll take that small W. Garrosh got done right. I feel like it was pretty good. But then, you know, I wish Metzen could retcon Arthas stuff. Yeah, I'm playing back through classic Wrath of the Lich King, and it's so fucking weird to go through these zones and the stories and be thinking of it like, well, this is the jailer though. It's fucked. It fucks my brain up. I mean, but it pisses me off, chat. You're gonna hate me when I say this. It pisses me off because it kind of makes sense, dude. Even with like some of the dialogue that NPCs use, it can make sense, and it's so fucking irritating that it does, which is like, because I wish that it didn't. I wish that it didn't, but it does. But I don't know. It's just, and then he was a robot construct thing. Like, what even is that? Like, what even is that? That's tough. It's tough. Shadowlands can remain in the shadow. The jailer isn't real. It was all a dream from N'Zoth, who is still alive. I think that the old gods are dead for now. Look, let me tell you something. Xal'atath is gathering old god blood. I mean, come on. And someone told me recently, they made some connections to Cthulhu. What the fuck is it? Cthulhu's like daughter, who resurrects him. Maybe Xal'atath resurrects N'Zoth. And if that happens, I wonder if he will look the same or if he will look different. I would kind of love to see like maybe N'Zoth in like his old form. Like I think all the old gods look different now than what they used to, personally. So I would kind of like to see if they do, what that would look like. I mean, I think that they were I kind of want them to be like wondrous and like, how would I put this? Like bright and green and very intelligent and maybe have flowers on them. I know that sounds weird, but like what if they're like beautiful? Like I'm not trying to be weird. Like I'm serious. Like I mean, if they used to be a different life form that like gets that was corrupted or like turned into something else because the Titans are fucking stupid, you know, like maybe they look completely fucking different. I don't know. Like I don't know. Is there? I mean, I guess it would be like, I guess what I would think maybe like a spore mound would be like, right? I think that, yeah, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, which is very fitting for Lovecraftian entities. About Zareth Mortis, I heavily disagree with the they're all robot narratives. One piece of dialogue says that the Pantheon of Death already existed as entities, as souls before occupying their robotic vessels. Raven, that actually kind of makes sense because that could actually relate to some of the kind of under the surface lore for Shadowlands. Because there's a like a mushroom thing that's been in the Shadowlands for like a fucking shit long time. It's been, no pun intended, because it's fungus. It's been there for a long time, and it's in Ardenweald. Thank you. In Ardenweald, yeah. There's like this mushroom guy, an ancient mushroom thing that talks about how Ardenweald used to be different, and like the wilds here did not used to look like this, and that everything changed when she came, and I'm pretty sure he's talking about the Winter Queen. So, I don't know, like maybe, maybe, I don't fucking know. Maybe the souls of the Eternals are taken from their former bodies and put into constructs, perhaps that give someone else more control over them or make them adhere to certain, programming. Does that make sense? Like if I take your soul and put it in this robot that I can control or that I can program, can I basically like make you do, like, will it make you do things? Will it make you act a certain way, but like do certain things? I guess what I'm talking about is like taking a soul, a consciousness, and putting it in a robot. And then like, is there a risk of that robot becoming like connected to something else that could then, you know, do something to it? So, I don't know. For all I know, the first ones could have been the ones that came before the Eternals, the first ones, and then the second ones came in their replacement and ordered the Shadowlands and changed it and made it probably a lot more like what the Titans would want. So, fuck, I don't know. I have no idea. The first one's lore is tough. It's tough. It's tough. And I'm glad to see that there's been pretty much zero mention of it ever since then. So, I'm fine with that.